We are so happy to introduce your work to Korean readers for the first time. So could you share a short greeting with Korean readers while looking at the camera?
안녕하세요. I'm Coco Melas, author of Blue Sisters. I am so excited that my novel will be out in Korea in October. I cannot wait for you to read it.
How did you feel about when you first heard the news about Korean publication?
I was thrilled. I'm a huge fan of Korean culture. I can't wait to come and visit the country. I think one of the great gifts of being a writer is being read by people all over the world from different cultures and different languages.
Could you describe the book in 5 keywords for Korean readers and a little synopsis?
I think Blue Sisters in 5 keywords would be sisterhood, love, grief, fighting, and forgiveness. And Blue Sisters is the story of 3 exceptional and exceptionally different sisters, one living in New York, one in London, and one in LA, who come back together to their childhood home in New York after the death of their 4th sister, who has sadly died the year before, and what it takes for them to reconnect to each other, to move forward and fall back in love with life in the wake of this loss. The opening line of the novel is meant to be a big statement that the reader could agree with or disagree with. It's opening a conversation. I wrote A Sister Is Not a Friend because I wanted to say something about sisterhood that was different than how I had seen it portrayed before, which is that a sister can feel like a friend in some ways, but they're different to a friend in that we don't choose them. You know, we're born with each other. We don't get to know each other as siblings. You just sort of always know each other. They're always part of your life. There is something about the bond that is sticky and unbreakable, and it can be so beautiful and so ugly at the same time, and it's messier than friendship. And so I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to show that within a family, people can grow to be very different and still have fundamental things in common. I felt that birth order was going to be very important for these sisters. So Avery, the eldest, is very much, I think, a quintessential eldest child. She kind of carries her family on her back. She acts as almost like a mother to her younger siblings. And then I'm always really fascinated with how a character will break away from the mold that they've been set or the expectations placed on them. So Avery also has this secret life. You know, she's stealing, she's smoking cigarettes, she has a kind of illicit relationship with someone that she meets in AA. So I'm interested in contradictions at the heart of characters. So Bonnie, who's the next sister down, the contradiction in her is that she is a professional boxer, so she's violent for a living. But actually, in many ways, she's the most sweet, like harmonious, gentle of all the sisters. Her nature is very pacifist, actually. And that really fascinated me. And I think she had some very typical middle child qualities in that she's the diplomat. She's very even-keeled. You know, she kind of sees everyone's side. She can recede. Doesn't have the biggest ego in the room. Nikki, who is the sister who died, was probably the hardest to write because I was building her entirely through memory. I wanted Nikki to be a bright spark in the family, someone who leaves the family more, has friends outside of the family, like builds a kind of community outside of the sisters. And I think that she had a very maternal instinct. She's very loving. She, wanted to be a wife and a mother. She had quite traditional goals. She loved being a teacher. She loves to nurture. And so the loss of her in the family is so deep because she played such an important role to the other sisters as well, like bringing this softness and this gentleness. And then Lucky, my baby of the family, my sort of rebel child, who I'm the youngest of 4. So I have always had a soft spot for Lucky. I think in many ways she's, classic baby. She gets her way. She is like a little bit coddled by the family, but she also, I think, because she's the youngest, she saw the dynamics and she's sort of the most critical of the family. Like, she pulls away the most, and I think she's the most longing for connection and the least connected, at least when the novel opens. She is someone who has a kind of a tough shell, but on the inside is like really, really in need of, I think, care and compassion. She is a character who I think I was kind of concerned about her when the novel opened. I was really hoping that she would find her way. She's sort of the lost sheep, and I wanted her to find her way back to the flock. Yeah, I mean, Nikki was definitely a challenge because I needed her to feel both alive in the sense that we had a strong understanding of who she was and the role she played in the family. And then we had to really feel her loss. And the way to feel her absence is for her to be very present in memory. So I built her entirely through these memory scenes with the other sisters. And memory can be tricky to write on the page. It interrupts the current narrative. It can slow down the pace of a book. And it has to do a lot of work quite quickly. So memory, you know, I mentioned postcards. Memory is like a postcard from the past. So I had to have memories that were short and economical, but that told you a lot about Nikki. So it took me a long time to find those and what they would be, and I tried out different ones and kind of plugged them in and took them out. I really wanted to show how Nikki was with each of her sisters individually, and then I needed a scene where all four of them are together, and that was really important for me to show what they were like when they were a whole family. My hope is that the reader is put in the position of the living sisters and that they too long for Nikki and they miss her and they want her, but she's not there. And that was part of the sort of trick of the narrative, is to make sure that I don't undercut the reality of loss, which is that even though I could, as a writer, have her be much more present, I had to keep her somewhat at a distance. So we felt from their perspective what it is that they were missing. I'm a hopeful person. I put my characters through a lot, but I never want to punish my characters. Like, I love my characters so much. I really care about them. I think they sometimes make very bad choices, but I'm still always on their side at the end of the day. So my hope is always that my characters are happy and that they found a way to be connected. I love to imagine that these sisters, you know, are all now back to living in New York and that they meet up every weekend and do a kind of Sunday lunch. In England, where I'm from, Sunday roast is, you know, it's a sort of cultural thing that we do where we come together as a family and we eat a roast with Yorkshire puddings and gravy. And these sisters, their mother is British and their father is American. So I like to imagine that they get together with their mother and they have a Sunday roast every week. My message to any reader who's experiencing addiction, either in their own life or in the life of someone they love, is that you are never alone. That alcoholism and addiction are very painful things to live with. They're filled with shame and loneliness. They can be extremely hard to talk about. There can be a lot of secrecy and a lot of sadness. And so for me, part of the reason it's so important to write about these topics is I think that books offer sacred and private spaces for us to go and explore things that can be hard to talk about. But what I hope is that by reading about these topics and knowing that whatever you've experienced, no matter how isolating it could feel at the time, someone else has felt that way, someone else has been through those things, it will encourage any reader to talk about it with people that they know and to find community either in person or online, and start the healing process, which is about sharing. We heal by sharing our stories and coming together. I've been very open that I struggled with addiction for most of my 20s. I come from a family of people who have also struggled with it. So I really hope that it destigmatizes it and it makes people know that this is not something for bad people. This is not something for unsuccessful people or the kind of people at the outside of society or pariahs. It affects absolutely everyone, and we're all together in this. I mean, it's such an honor to be described as a modern day Little Women. Like, that novel is so important to our culture. It did so much, I think, to give young girls a sense of identity and voice. I loved the idea of creating a family in which people could find versions of themselves and say, like, I'm such an Avery, you know, I'm such a Bonnie, I'm such a Nikki, I'm such a Lucky. I think it gives people a shorthand, a way of connecting and communicating. So it feels like a real a piece of praise that it makes me feel wonderful. And I love this idea of finding new ways to engage with classic literature. So you read a book today and then you think, oh, well, maybe I'll go back and read Little Women. You know, I never read that, or, you know, a different book. I think I love that history and literature are always in conversation with each other. I often say that I'm writing books for readers that haven't been born yet. I want to write a book that will be read in 20 years, 50 years, 100 years, because I think that the themes of novels like mine are universal and beyond time. You know, they're about how do we love, who do we love, how do we find meaning in our life, and how do we move forward when life is not what we hoped or expected. I hope that Korean readers, always I want to bring a sense of entertainment and enjoyment. You know, that's very important to me. Like, I don't want my books to ever be a drag, you know, but I also hope that it's an emotional experience. You know, I want it to be a place where people can go and feel deeply and reflect on their own life and hopefully, you know, start conversations with their loved ones and make them connect more deeply to the people around them. So I think that books are the beginning of a conversation, not the end.
Okay, that will be all. Thank
Well
you.
done, we did it.
Actually, I have brought something for you. That is a gat pan. So the hat here is a traditional Korean hat called gat, and it's a pan.
This is wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. You can have tea or anything with it, and if you like.
Thank you so much. Wait, remind me how to say thank you.
감사합니다.
감사합니다.
Okay. We should give to Coco.